Hi everyone, welcome to Legends and Lore Season 2, Episode 7. And I'm Anna B. Meyer, and with me today is, as usual,
Mike.
yeah. And today we have special honored guest here, and we have Mr. Carlos Lysing from I would say, the Night of Castle Entertainment.
That's me.
Yeah,
Thanks
welcome.
for having me.
Oh, you're
Welcome
welcome.
to the show.
Okay, and now we got Mordenkainen the bot is back again. We'll see if he's vicious tonight or not. It was so funny a few episodes ago
Yes.
last season. He was doing all sorts of crap to make us. And Bayvix is here. Hi,
Hey,
Bayvix.
David.
Wonderful. Good to see you again. Yep. So tonight going to be kind of a yeah. We're going to have some. We have to talk to Carlos about what he's up to, and because he's one of these that makes a lot of cool things for Greyhawk, definitely, and so that will be a big thing, and then we'll see. We have maybe a few other tidbits here and there that we will, and tangents and stuff that we will kind of go into. But let us go first to Mike and ask him what's you been up to lately. Just a little kind of a quick recap.
Did you guys miss me last week?
Yes.
What have I been up to? Dang, I had all this free time to do something, didn't I? Well, no, I just have been plugging away at the blog, got some interesting stuff that other people are creating that I wanted to point out real quick. Um, or maybe I can talk about it later on. Well, yeah, we'll talk about it later on some stuff that other people
Hmm.
are doing,
Yeah.
and I have another little mini map that I'll be posting on the blog. I don't spend as much time on my maps as Anna does. Mine are more just like little cartoony sketches of tiny little areas of ground, but I'm having fun doing them.
Cool. Yeah.
That's
Right now you might very well spend more times on time on your Greyhawk maps than I do, because right now I'm working really hard for Cobalt Press.
Okay,
I have two huge commission projects that needs to be done by June. So I'm
deadlines.
working really hard to get them done. But there's still some Greyhawk stuff that I'm putting in. I did a map stream a couple of days ago, like Tuesday, and I
Oh,
kind of announced and showed a little bit about new icons. So I think about that's something I can kind of put in a little bit later. So a new set of icons, not for the existing map, but when you zoom in, there will be needs for new icons and to show things in a different way. So that's something that's coming. And I'm also having I need to celebrate a little bit because I got 200 patrons this morning. So I have
congrats.
a special kind of a couple of cool announcement that we can talk about a little when we go on tangents and stuff. So there's a few things coming up and a whole bunch of stuff planned for this fall. So yeah, but now on to Carlos and all the cool thing. Can you kind
I'm
of
in.
present yourself and a little bit about your back history, because you've been in Greyhawk forever.
yeah, I have. I started playing the game back in the late '70s. I went over to a friend's house, and I'm sure this story is very familiar to a lot of you guys out there,
Hmm.
and to you too. Um, I saw the red box sitting on, or excuse me, the Holmes Basic sitting on his table, and I was like, "What is this?" And let's play it. I did. I remember my very first game. I was playing a first level Magic user. I'd been reading, Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So I didn't have I didn't get that I only had one spell per day.
So
And
you burned
I
it straight
remember,
away.
like, room two, I ran into a carry on crawler and I just got wiped out. But the seeds of everything and the potential of the game, I
Hmm.
was just blown away. I was like,
Yep.
wow, this could be really awesome. And I was
Yep.
hooked. It became a major part of my life ever since.
Hmm. Yep.
um, Afterwards, I'd been running I learned that the easiest way to find games was to DM them. So I ended up DMing, and I was poring over all the books constantly. You would read. I remember when I got my first edition books, you'd read things like names Mordenkainen and Tensor and Nistel and things like that, and I
Yep.
had to know more. I just had to know more, and so I got sunk into the world of Greyhawk, and I've really DM'd solely in Greyhawk pretty much since then, since the late '70s. Most of my adventures take place in Perrinland. However, I move all over the place as well. I've got a lot of projects going as you guys know, all over the
Yep.
Flyness and
Mm-hmm.
actually all over Earth. So um, now, about maybe 2 years ago, I started Castle Entertainment, which is my company. We have a Patreon and we make modules. Up there
Exactly.
it is.
Yes.
That was Anna's
Mm-hmm.
prize for winning the
Yes.
Marquesa Thy Name is
Mm-hmm.
Evil
Yep.
most
Mm-hmm.
valuable player
Yep.
at the session we had up in GaryCon this week, or I
Who
should say
Cardinal
earlier this month.
Marquez?
It was it's been very rewarding to me to be able to write modules and adventures for everyone. Uh, People seem to be receiving them well in lieu of official Greyhawk support that's out there right now.
Makes sense.
It's great to be able to provide the community with adventures and new material that I write the kind of stuff that I would want to see, or the things that I would want to play in, or those kind of adventures. And it's been very gratifying for me so far that everybody seems to be responding to them so well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's really cool. So it's interesting. You gone the kind of to file off the serial number and still publish Greyhawk stuff,
I
so to
sure
speak. Yeah.
have. Like, for
Yep.
example, whenever I
Mm-hmm.
talk about Greyhawk, I
Yep.
just refer to it as the Free City,
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
I will
that's
change
That's
I will
what
change
Kaiser did.
Perrinland
yep.
because it was originally it was designed after Jeff Perrin,
Mm-hmm.
obviously
Yeah.
Gary's wargaming friend. So I call it Perrinjoff. You know,
Yep. Awesome.
things
Oh,
like that.
yeah. We have to say
The
hi
Woolly
to
Bay
Gary
becomes
again.
the Fleecy Bay, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's what I do is, Greyhawk has a long-standing tradition with doing things like that, with
E-
anagrams,
Even
uh,
Gary did that
Yeah.
when he's
yeah, and
in.
allusions to different things like that.
Yep.
So I feel like we're just upholding a piece of that Greyhawk tradition by
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Yep.
And it's been my experience that Greyhawk fans are really savvy and knowledgeable fans.
Oh yeah,
And I don't
They
definitely.
think
know.
you don't want to talk down to your audience at all. When I say something like that, I know that they're nodding in the background saying, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because we're used to reading for subtext.
Yep. So how many modules? How long? When did you publish the first module? Was that
The
several
first
years ago?
module was I have this habit. I should preface this. I have this habit of biting off more than I can chew when I, I start writing things. For GaryCon 8, I decided I was going to run a module. And I thought to myself, I'm writing it. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if I had a hard copy of this? So I made a hard copy. Wouldn't it be cool if I had a cover? Next thing I know, I've got a
Oh.
cover. Wouldn't it be cool if I had? And the next thing I do, I have a replica of an entire TSR module.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I'm sure if he was in that first game, he remembers when I busted out that Marquesa module. It was it's
That's
gone
been a
through a lot of
mainstay. It's
iterations.
been it's been like a
Yeah,
Marquesa every year. So
yeah.
have we killed
Mar-
Marquesa for good now or
I guess you get to find out whether or not that Marquesa is well known for having duplicates all over the
yes?
Flyness.
Oh, that's
So
cool. Yep.
I guess you get to find out.
Mm-hmm. This is like a horror
But
movie.
In another
The
castle.
yeah
yeah,
needs to come back again.
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. But I see that I'm getting a message over here in the chat. Yes, I am the Castle Entertainment on Drive Through RPG.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're beginning Drive Through RPG. I have noticed their printing process. I wasn't really happy with the quality of it, so we've since moved away from Drive Through RPG. I've moved through to Lulu, and we're doing printing and we're doing fulfillment of orders strictly through Castle Entertainment, through my Patreon, through my Facebook, and through my email at this point.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we're doing. But going back to Marquesa and the module, so that came out at GaryCon 8, and it was so well received. Everybody's like, "Hey, you have to," because they failed to kill Marquesa that first year. They said you've got to do something next year. So next year I was like, okay, and I had 3 modules that year, and the next year, right now as we sit here, I have 12 published modules that we have,
Wow.
and
Mm-hmm.
through the Patreon, I release a mini module every month. And as a matter of fact, to commemorate Legends of Lore this week, I've written a mini module called "She is the Salt in Your Tears" for high-level gameplay, which I'm giving out to everybody here that is joining us. All you have to do is you have to whisper either to Amanda Rue or make your desire to have it known over there in the chat, and we'll fulfill that right away for you guys. So
Thank you.
you guys
That
get a little
is
taste of what
awesome.
I do,
Yep.
and at the same time, we I wrote the stuff based on Ull, the nation of Ull, because Mike Bridges has done so much good stuff there, and I want to give a tip of the cap to him with that. And Anna's look, the look for her stuff is so it's so distinctive with the parchment background and everything. That's my little nod to her over there as well. So I wanted to make it something
Oh,
that you guys
so
both
cool.
had.
Yep.
Amazing.
It was
Awesome.
something that kind of dovetailed both the way both of you guys do stuff, your methodologies.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I apologize in advance to player characters going through this. This is an extremely difficult module for high-level play.
Yeah, I heard some rumors about it being like the Serac coming
I know.
back or something like. Yeah.
That one's going to wipe out a few player
Yeah.
characters.
So no, don't put your hands into holes and stuff like
No,
that, or
don't put your
looking.
hand into holes.
Yeah.
Don't put your hands.
Yep.
I dare say that this is probably deadlier than the module I wrote for the handout at GaryCon. And I had a lot of people come up to me after that and say, "Boy, that thing is nasty."
But I must say that I'm proud. Last time when at GaryCon we went through it, I didn't take 1 point of damage. The druid
know
I
you
played,
didn't.
I didn't take a single point of damage. I
You
was
managed to make it through there with no points of damage. That was
unscathed.
awesome.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, your ability to use the staff of slinging is so well to such good effect as part of what won you the MVP. So that was
but
that
still,
was
I kind of threw it away and ran into combat at the final stage, so to speak, and I managed
well.
to.
Also, too, the recon is a seagull at the beginning because I was playing a druid and she used her shape change.
Yep.
Without that, you wouldn't have known the whole layout of the.
Yeah, so
you
we
wouldn't have
did.
seen the
It was,
fact that there
and
was a,
but you had, there was a very interesting set of characters for that adventures that you kind of chosen very carefully and what spells we had and stuff. So it was a well-rounded party that was really.
I'm
was
glad
cool.
you brought that up, Anna, because that's something that Mike had something to do with as well. When I first wrote Marquesa, I wanted to give everybody the feeling that they were playing in a campaign, an actual campaign, even though it was only in yearly installments. So what I did was the characters, the pre-gens from the first year, what I did is I contacted everybody after the convention. I gave them a series of questions. I said, based on what happened in the first one, how would you develop your character? For example, if they found a magic weapon, would they sell it? Would they continue to use it? Things like that. I'll give you a great example. Michael, in the second Marquesa, which is called Die Marquesa Die, he used a knock spell on one of the cells, exploring the module, and freed one of Marquesa's captives. Well, it happened to be a snow barbarian woman.
Oh yeah,
and,
that was.
What's that?
No, I was like, why did I do that? Oh yeah, that's why.
Oh yeah, because you were seeing what condition she was in. You couldn't bear it anymore. So you cast the knock spell and you let her out, and she swore a blood debt to Mike's character. And if you follow Marquesa, the next module, you'll see that the character that Mike played has a follower now who is a barbarian woman and follows him around as a bodyguard.
Oh wow!
So actions have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea that when you buy the next module, you can almost see sort of how things went in gameplay like that.
Yeah, you have the persistent world in module form, so to speak. It's really cool. Yeah.
I mean, and that's another thing. It's kind of a nod to the way that Greyhawk used to be. If you guys remember, we would see things develop as we got new modules. You would see characters and nods to things that had changed in the campaign going forward. And I liked that. I mean, I always liked the fact that you would see, you would see Mordenkainen change in his stats. You would see Jalarzi between the first time that you saw her, and then you would see her in Return of the Eight when she had that horrible thing happen to her with Tourney. And then later on, you would see her again. She was totally different, but they kept that in continuity. I thought that was really cool, and I kind of wanted to reflect that a little bit. So anyway, the long and the short of it is that you guys, anybody who buys the modules, you can put them all side by side, look at the characters, and you can see constant development. But that is that's agency of the players on that point in time. That was not the development of those characters. Really, is probably only about maybe 40% me, but it's 60% my players that actually played as playtesters in those games. So if we actually ran again, if there's another Marquesa module, no spoilers, you got Anna, you'd be able to expect a series of emails about your druid character.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, this is so now you released a number of modules and stuff. Any plans for other types of products, or will it be modules only,
Yeah, well,
or
right now, Castle Entertainment is we do a few things.
mm-hmm.
Right now, we do modules, we do shirts, and through my Patreon, we release the mini modules. I do a spell of the month, a monster of the month, a magic item of the month that I give out.
Yep.
And this year, we started branching out into some other old school TSR stuff. For example, I did a top secret module
Oh,
this time,
cool. So yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. You can expect as Castle Entertainment gets a little bit more established
Yeah.
as being an indie publisher. There's only so many resources I can commit to the project.
Yeah.
But I'm the money that we make off of it, I'm constantly reinvesting into it. For example, now we have, if you looked at the first Marquesa, it was a photograph for the module, but now you can see that the module features art by Chet Mint,
Yeah. You
actually.
have
So that's
commissioned
so
art
that was
now. Yep.
progress. Now
Mm-hmm.
we're going to begin to do interior artwork, and we're going to be doing professional cartography. So far, my cartography has been inside the pages such that it is. I've never been happy with it, but professional cartographers are coming, professional artists are coming on interior work as well as the cover. So we're just going to keep developing this until it's as refined a product until it's the product I want to make sure everybody has that I would want.
Smadger, you got to get here a little earlier to ask Carlos how he got in the game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Um, there is one thing I did want to promo though here before we got any farther, and that is Castle Entertainment. Since you brought up other things that we're doing this month through in conjunction with my Patreon, it's our first charity initiative.
Uh-huh.
I'm a big enthusiast of wildlife and animals and conservation, and we're going to be having a celebration for April. It's going to be Animal Month. Everything that we do through through the Patreon is going to be animal themed. However, we have a module called Lost Dog right over
Oh.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
And what it does is the module, we're going to be running it over the weekend here at the top of April. All proceeds of the module, or I should say all profits coming from the sale of the module, whether it be PDF or whether it be in hard copy, are going to go to an organization called Red Rover. Red Rover is a animal organization that one of their main focuses is reuniting lost and missing pets with their owners,
Ah. Mm-hmm.
and as that's where Lost Dog comes in. Takes place in the free city of Greyhawk. I'm going to have some special guest players, two of whom may or may not be in this chat room with me
Uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
that week, and
Yep.
we're going to have 3 sessions of it, and it's
Mhm.
going to be pretty awesome. I hope everybody can join us with that. I'm hoping
Yep.
to raise some money for a really worthy cause there.
Yep. That's setting a good trend here because Jay Scott he took the initiative. We had the last week it was the Greyhawk Mega Stream, 16 hours of stream that brought in over $1,000 to St. Jude's.
Wow.
So that was yeah. So that was a really successful. So thank you all to who participated and made it so much fun and
I
successful.
can't say enough good things about Jay. Jay is one
Yeah.
of the true gentlemen in our hobby, and
Yep.
he's one of the stalwart people out there as far as
Hmm.
Greyhawk goes.
Yep.
He's
I,
become
I
a
wish he
friend
had been
of mine.
in our social circle.
Yeah, and we will see if we can get him on the show too, so we can kind of coordinate with things in the future too. But then speaking of, because he's an old school player, so now I'm going to say, so the modules, what game system are you still fully developed, committed to
Well,
old school,
in
or
order
how's
to
that?
respect IP, I have
Hmm.
had to. I'll go back to Lost Dog. You'll notice everything says it's compliant with Osric,
Ah,
which
okay. Hmm.
for
Yep.
generic first editions
Yep.
clone out there. But
Hmm.
everything everything that you guys can read in there will be very familiar with the first level players. It's a little bit like how Judges Guild used to be, where it's very clear that everything is in first edition. Although I've just had to file the numbers off.
Hmm.
I see I've got a question about where we'll be streaming, and we'll be streaming through Twitch TV again. and there'll be links through my Facebook and through Castle Entertainment's Facebook on how to join in. And it should be a good time.
Yep.
I see that also. We've also got another question about my getting started in Greyhawk in
Yeah.
particular.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of glossed over this at the beginning, but back in the late '70s, as you read all the source material through the Dungeon Master's Guide and your even stuff like Fiend Folio, there's mentions of all these. I think Gary and his crew were very clever about how they would just insert a name in there, and it would have just be a very short sentence, but it always left you wanting to know more. I thought that was always something very clever that they did.
Yeah.
Is that brief mention, and as a result, I wanted to know more and more and more, and before I knew it, I was ensconced in Greyhawk completely. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yep. That's super
I'm sure
super cool.
everybody is familiar with.
Yep.
Everybody that's watching it, we're all Greyhawk fans. I know that you have that common experience that you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah, yeah. For me, it was I started gaming general and we had an awesome DM who ran things kind of pseudo Lord of the Rings, and then when the
Right.
but I always wonder what the magic came from, and when I grabbed the Greyhawk box and started reading through the setting, I was like, this is where the magic comes from, and it became my setting, and then I've been running games in it ever since. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just little things like the picture of Miracle the Chaotic in the Dungeon
Hmm.
Master's Guide. Didn't you see that and want to know more about that guy right away?
Yeah.
You were like,
Yeah.
this
Hmm.
guy looks like a badass. I want to know more about him. I want to know
Hmm.
where he comes from.
Yeah.
What spell is he casting? Is that Ray of Enfeeblement that
Hmm.
he's casting on that guy?
Yeah.
What? And I'm just, I, I think part of it being so young, also I was, 10, 10 years old around then, your imagination is just so
Yeah.
ready for that kind of thing.
Hmm.
I still feel like I don't know anything about that character.
Did you ever read A Paladin in Hell, the module?
No.
Paladin in Hell, he is actually your patron going through there. And there's a lot more written about him in that. It's a 2E thing, but
Then
I
I need
consider
to
him
go
a part
back.
of
I have
Greyhawk.
that one sitting on the shelf here somewhere, so I need
Yeah,
to read
yeah,
that one again.
he's a big part of that. So if you want
Oh,
to
cool.
know a little bit more about a miracle, go
Yep.
ahead and check that out.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
think that's probably the biggest published source material about him.
Yep.
I'll be darned.
Yep.
Hey, Blake has a great question for
Yes,
Carlos.
exactly. Go ahead, Mike.
And that is
Uh, is there a classic Greyhawk module that you haven't played or run yet?
It's got to be
a
plenty of
classic
them,
one
right?
that I have not played or run yet.
Yeah.
Well, for the obvious exception of stuff like Puppets and Gargoyle,
Yeah,
um,
which
I, which
classics.
yeah, or Castle Greyhawk itself, I kind of have played, I think, just about everything I've ever wanted to, or at least I've DM'd it.
Hmm.
I have a long-standing character of mine that's lasted now almost 40 years that I've been fortunate to play through a lot of the modules because I had a lot of DMs back then that wanted to run the stock modules. So I was fortunate enough to be able to play through those a lot. I would say my favorites of all of them would have to be number one would be Lost Caverns or Sarkhanth. I've always been a huge fan of that. But number two, I I don't know if anyone really considers it a sequel or not, but I'm a huge fan of Lost Temple, Forgotten Temple of Thurisdan. I consider those two sequels to each other because they both take place in Perrinland, which is my old stomping grounds as both a character and a DM.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are probably my favorites, and yeah, I think I've played just about everything that has been published at this point, which I'm grateful to be able to say. I don't think I think that people it's a double-edged sword with playing modules and published material, in that it's so cool playing through your DMs or your own take on the Flanessa on Earth. But there's also, I feel like you're missing out on half of the whole experience if you don't get a chance to play through those classic modules and get to see things like Mike mentioned earlier tonight that he'd played a little bit of Ghost Tower of Inverness before. Without that, you don't get to know a little bit about Galap Dreidel, and you don't get to know a little bit about that whole piece of that background of Orth. I believe that Duke Owen is in that at the beginning from the Grand Duchy. Is he not? At the beginning, I think he's your patron at the beginning.
No, it's the Duke of Ernst.
That's right. It's a Duke of Ernst, Duke Carl. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
But
and the
yeah,
Seer of Ernst.
yeah, it's Sear. But that's another piece of it. I mean, you're looking at you don't get to see that whole,
Yeah.
you don't get to feel that whole thing, and I think if you don't, you're missing out on half of the puzzle. Yeah, absolutely. I love Thurisdan too, and I think that Mike has added to that whole mythos a little bit through his cartoons with
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
cultists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those cultists are the
Yeah.
cutest cultists ever. The cutest evil
Oh,
cultists
I
ever. So they're
know.
they're fantastic. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep.
Psycho.
Yeah, and now Nebbiolo has a good question. Modules of OSR, do you offer suggestions or 5e conversions? Is 5e something you're looking into, or will you join the now
5e is a little bit of the
steamrolling
monster in
bandwagon?
the closet for me right now
Yeah,
because there's two things in play with 5e and Castle Entertainment. The first one is respect for IP. It's important for me to respect IP. And since there's really no clone right now for 5e, if I'm going to start publishing 5e modules, I almost have to go through DM's Guild to do it and in order to sell them and be on the up and up.
yeah,
Uh, and also, frankly, being a first edition player myself, I'm not as conversant in 5e as I would want to be. I do want to write 5e stuff, and it is in the cards for Castle Entertainment. It will probably be 2020 when I start doing 5e stuff. However, those two barriers right now kind of make it a little bit difficult for me to cross over into that 5e publishing
yeah.
because, like I said, the respect for IP thing is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, uh, I love Greyhawk, and I love I the setting. I love the community. I love just about everything out of it. So I don't want to do anything to disrespect the proper channels.
Yeah, I agree with you. That, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially too. I mean, going back to my top secret module, there's been some interest from TSR Games, the current iteration of it, in publishing that.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because there's a new top secret version coming out. I talked to the guy at Gen Con
Yeah,
last
it's
year. Yeah,
Jason Elliott who's in
yeah.
charge of that
Mm-hmm.
our organization, and he and
Yeah,
I have been in conversation about publishing my top secret module. Well, that's not possible if I'm running roughshod all over their IP. You don't have that kind. You have kind of an antagonistic relationship to begin with.
Hmm.
You don't want to do that. So hopefully that's in the cards. You guys can see some Castle Entertainment stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In
Fingers
that respect.
crossed.
Yeah. So are you planning or thinking about moving into source books or apart from modules and stuff?
This is a
Now,
leading question.
yes, it's a very leading question. I'm sorry. Yeah. So
It's okay. It's okay.
yeah, yep.
I'll talk
You
about
can
it since you
dodge
guys
it
are privy
completely if
to it.
you want to.
And I know a
That's
lot of people on
yeah,
the old Cannon Fire chat are privy
mm-hmm,
to it.
yep,
Yes, Castle Entertainment is in the works with the source book that we have been working on now for a considerable amount of time. It's called Fireland. It is massive at this point, and it is the project that I have had. Tim Decker, you made it. Hey, what's going on, buddy? It is the first. It's my first source book. It is the project that I poured the most resources into. I've done to this extent that excuse me, Darlene. I'm getting you two confused. I've
that's an
got
honor for
additional
me to be
calligraphy for
confused
the
with
map
Darlene.
from
Yep.
Darlene herself.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Robert Lazzaretti who did the Dungeon Magazine maps for Greyhawk. It fits right into the map of Earth the way I've put it, in terms of look and feel. I've got interior art by professional artists, some of which I've shared, some of which I haven't. As we speak, it is a 3-book set that I hope to either slipcase or box set, probably box set, and it is right now without any art, about 700 to 800 pages long.
You're a madman.
Well, you guys have seen some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have seen some of it, so hopefully you guys can. Are you liking what you've seen so far?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just astounded
Yeah.
at the size of the project.
Yeah, and I
scope
love
of it.
the Lazzaretti map looked fantastic. That's one I've seen.
Yeah.
And
Thanks
Yeah.
so much.
now
Thanks so much.
now you're giving me ideas here because I was thinking moving into Monaland. I haven't this is just now realizing I should do it. I should ask Darlene, and I should commission Darlene to do a full Hepmona land in conjunction with mine, so we can have my version and Darlene version. So there will be a new and an old version of Hepmona land. I haven't
That would
asked her about this, and I
Mm,
just realized it when you talked about it. So I'm definitely going to ask her and see if
that would
I
be
can commission
amazing.
her to do a full Hepmona land map this fall in or maybe early next year or something when she can fit it in, and when I've done the kind of groundwork, and she can use that as an inspiration and then do so there will be
Thunderbird,
a
I wanted to say that I agree with you. The Soul Gem is one of the classic and most beloved
yeah
artifacts out there in on Earth, and
yeah
I'm glad my
yeah,
players didn't try to keep it.
yeah and to answer Gary, I haven't done Fireland because I'd known about Carlos' project about 2 years, I think it is now, and so I kind of stayed away and say that Carlos do his thing, and I can come in and make my version of Fireland to cover based on Carlos' source book and his material, maybe next year or something like that,
right.
depending
And
on yeah.
Anna and I have talked about collaborating
Mm-hmm.
on
Yep.
different things like
Yep.
that
So
as far as
in the works, so to speak. It's
Fireland
yep.
goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I got a couple things. First of all, somebody has mentioned the Horn Society to
Yeah,
me.
Blake mentioned that. I made a
Yes.
note.
Mm-hmm.
So
The Horn Society, I have if you in Marquesa, one of my Marquesa modules, one of her henchmen is a refugee from the Horn Society. He was a lesser hierarch, and but that is the most I have done with the Horn Society at this point. I kind of like a little bit what they did with the Horn Society in after the Greyhawk Wars, to be honest with you, in terms of when it was shattered. I like the idea that it's a shadow organization with their tendrils kind of
That's
everywhere.
true. Yeah, but it was my favorite villains for the Horn Society. They
I
were
think
just
it's funny
plain
that an
evil,
evil
no bullshit.
organization.
It was just plain evil. That was
Yeah, there's something to like about both takes on them. I
yeah.
agree, but
I think it's funny that you called an evil organization refugees because usually they would be the ones creating
yeah,
refugees.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
It's kind of
Well,
an interesting, and I have them kind of weaved into my next campaign coming up, so they play a role in there too. So yes, as a kind of refugee under yeah, because now the Scarlet Brotherhood's out in the open, so that I needed a new
Yeah.
kind of yeah, so
I
so
want to.
they fit
There
the bill.
was a question I wanted to address back there a few
Hmm.
minutes ago from Casey. First of all, hey Casey, what's going on? I loved your show last week, but
Casey.
Yeah.
uh,
Hey.
he mentioned asked me some questions about IP and Fireland. That's Fireland is reason one of the main reasons why all the other Castle Entertainment projects have gone forward and Fireland has not at this point been published is that there are IP issues with Fireland as far as that goes. Fireland, when it's released, will be a free project. It's going to be sourced out to everybody. It's just going to be basically fan fiction.
Ah, okay.
And
Yep.
all
Hmm.
it's going to be the I want it to be the most professional looking fan fiction you've ever seen in your life, but I don't want to collect a dime for it. That's just my love letter to the setting, to the Gygax family, to the community. It's going to be everybody's for free. I don't in
Okay.
that particular project. I don't file the numbers off of anything. I
Yeah.
use names like Mordenkainen.
Then you
I'm
go the
talking
route that I've done basically. You take that way of handling it instead. Yep.
exactly, and I'm going to disseminate it and let it out in the wild, and anybody who wants it can have it. So I'm really not going to try and challenge IP by selling the product or anything like that. I'm just gonna let it out there, and you guys can all have it and enjoy it, and hopefully you like it, and hopefully there's a few things in there that you can use for your campaigns.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's
Yeah, me too, actually, because it's this dark cloud that's been hanging over my head for a few years now.
yeah.
It's like that monkey. It's like that little itch I
Hmm.
can't scratch every time
Yep.
I'm writing
Yep.
something new.
Yep.
Like right now, I'm in the midst of doing 15 different mini modules for this year's convention circuit and for my Patreon and things like that.
Hmm. Yep.
Every time I'm writing something like that, I've got that nagging thing in the back of my head. Can't you be working on Fireland right now?
Hmm. Yep.
So,
So yeah, speaking about conventions, what conventions are you planning to attend this year?
well, this year I did GaryCon, as you know.
Yeah.
It's my favorite convention in the world right now. I've become such good friends with people from our community through GaryCon. I can't miss it. It's Mecca for me. Uh, Me and Luke Gygax are good friends. So that one is a definite every year. You can expect me to see me there until I can't make it physically. But my wife and I are discussing different shows that we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. North Texas is out there on the table. Uh, I'm about 30% sure I'm going to be doing North Texas. Um, Origins is out there on the table. That's another one that I'm not really sure, but I will be there at Gen Con because
Hmm.
Jay Scott and I have discussed doing a joint DM thing
Oh, that sounds
for a
fun.
project over there at Gen Con. That'll be really cool if we can do that. And I will be doing a game hole probably as well up in Wisconsin again. The thing about it's weird when you're a player and you're a DM. You think about, hey, I just want to do this show. This would be sounds like a fun show to do. I really enjoy the show. But once you start doing stuff like Castle Entertainment, you almost have to start thinking tactically, like, hey, I need to go do this show here because it's a different audience that hasn't seen my stuff yet. So it's not necessarily how I would prefer to look at things, but the business end of it has forced me to do that a little bit. So yeah, I have to expose different markets, I guess, to my
Mm-hmm.
stuff in order to make
Yeah.
sure that I can keep growing and doing what I love and what I think are what I want to do the things for our community that I've always wanted to see done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's a big one for me.
Yeah. That's super, super cool. Then.
So I guess the answer to that, Anna, is I'm doing a few this
Mm-hmm.
year.
Yep.
I'm doing a few.
Wonderful. Then we get to see each other at least at Gen Con and Game Hall Con this
Yeah,
year.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a great time.
Yep.
I Anna and I have become really good friends over the
Mm-hmm.
years, and
Yep.
as far as doing the circuit together and doing through Cannon Fire chat and things like that. So, and Michael and I have become fast friends that way as well. So,
Yep. This is.
that's one of the cool things about Greyhawk in that I feel like almost the lack of support to it. You have to dig a lot to enjoy Greyhawk and enjoy the materials, but in doing so, you become part of this weird subculture
Mm-hmm.
and this
Yep.
underground subculture.
Yep.
And I think it almost makes our community, in a sense, this underground. In a way, it tightens us
There's
up.
some advantages not being a
Yeah, there are
published
some
setting
interesting
too. Yep.
advantages to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Definitely.
On that topic, then let me jump in here.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about community and people putting out stuff. I'm going to call out in chat right now. Blake Ryan is doing some amazing stuff on Greyhawk on the website Tribality.
Okay.
Okay.
He's so far put out an article on Marner and on Neural.
Okay.
You just trust me.
Can you link to it in chat?
I don't know. I mean, I'll try.
Yeah.
I've featured the stuff on my blog, which is easiest for me.
Okay.
I was
Perfect.
going to bring it up on the show, and then he just happens to be in chat right now.
Blake, that sounds exactly like the kind of things I've always been wanting to see as well.
Northern cities.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to mention that through my Patreon, I did a special focus on.
No, he can't post.
Yeah. Okay. I did a special focus on some of the northern cities, and I did a little bit of a gazetteer. So for the Ice Barbarians, and so hopefully maybe you can check that out. It's I gave it out to a lot of the Facebook groups as a free product, just because I want everybody to be able to enjoy it. So, that's exactly the kind of thing I've always wanted to see.
Yeah, it's great to see a lot more people putting out Greyhawk content these days.
Yeah.
Because for a while there, Cannon Fire was the only place to go to, and now it seems like we have several avenues.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The community in many ways is more vital than it's ever been. At least since Greyhawk was early 2000s when it was doing the Living Greyhawk campaign and when it was officially supported. But since then, it's going back up again with more and more cool stuff coming out. And
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree
And
with
on
you more.
conventions and stuff, yeah.
I run into more people that play Greyhawk now or that are interested in the setting than I ever did previously, at
Hmm.
least not since the 80s.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Hi, Nakara. Just now noticed.
so yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
mhm.
I think you see, I'm looking at the Marner map right now, and the whole treatment that you've given it it's spectacular, real professional layout.
I'm really I like that his articles are short. They're brief but have so much stuff packed into them,
Yeah,
like the quests and things. It's kind of I was really jazzed when I started reading those.
Yeah, this is
yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
have to take a look at those, and maybe I can
Hmm.
incorporate some of that into what I do too. That's really awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Blake. This is so cool. Yep.
Hmm.
I think my background in college was I was a creative writing major, a lit minor, and I tend to look at things when I read written material. I tend to look at them in terms of I style analyze everything I see. So whenever I see something like what Blake did, I always the first thing I'm looking at is what can I learn from this? What is this? What holes does this expose in what I do? So I like to
Yeah.
that's why I love seeing material like that. It's
Hmm.
always something I can learn from it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Now I need to. This is something I'm saving them in Evernote so I can read them
Yeah.
and have them on my reading list because I need to read these articles and dig into them. That's so much fun. This is
And
great.
he's got a
Thank
lot
you.
more coming up, evidently.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Now we have a question again from Casey. Carl, did you play in the Living Greyhawk campaign?
I did not. Actually, Living Greyhawk was well. First of all, I'm in Ohio, so I would have been Valuna. But I
Oh.
remember I was because of the official lack of support for Greyhawk. Like a lot of players, for a certain window of time, I was actually out of D&D, and I was focusing on other RPGs. And so I missed the entire Living Greyhawk phenomenon. I remember getting in. I went to a store in not too far from my house, a local game store, and a guy was telling me about it, and he was hitting me with all this third edition terminology and stuff. I had no footing in whatsoever, and I thought to myself, just the way that he laid it out to me, I remember being, this is clearly not my game anymore. Not Greyhawk per se, but third edition was so far out of my, because it was a big cognitive leap for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
like, maybe this is something not for me. Had it been rolled out to me in a different way, I probably would have been all over it though.
Damn. Yep. You missed it. Yep.
Yeah, I missed that one time. The whole Living Greyhawk totally, and I think it's one of the great shames of our setting, our favorite setting, that because of the way that IP was done for that, you don't get to see all that Living Greyhawk material as far as a centralized repository.
Yep. Yep.
It's because of Casey last week was talking about how it's really kind of impossible
Yep.
to do it ever again. But I wanted to, I would love to be able to go back, without challenging IP and getting, going the bootleg route. I'd love
Yep.
to see all that stuff printed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I mean, I
I would
remember
like to
when I bought his Bandit Kingdoms book.
Oh yeah,
I'm
it's
reading
great.
all this and trying to imagine how it was going on and everything. I was like, man, I wish I could see these modules laid out in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think that's one of the great tragedies of our of Greyhawk, that we essentially lost a lot of our history because
Yes,
of that.
one chapter of the Greyhawk setting history is kind of at least
Exactly.
partially lost, or the
I would
majority
like
of
to
it.
know, maybe Casey would know the answer. What percentage of the overall Living Greyhawk thing is good versus bad? Because not all Greyhawk canon we would say is good.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting to hear
what
what.
percentage of
Yeah,
Living Greyhawk is good? Are we really missing it?
from just my very subjective that actually have read almost all of it,
Yeah.
I might say that half of it is things that I don't want to have. But on the other hand, I'm very
Yeah.
sensitive to stuff because I discard a lot of stuff that way that I don't like to run. But on the other hand, almost all of the Living Greyhawk material had a few cool things in it, meaning there were a few
Okay.
place names and there were a few NPCs maybe or a few little rumors, and so there were sprinklings of cool stuff in almost all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I know
some
what you
yeah.
mean, Anna. Like I
Hmm.
said, my particular stomping grounds is Perrinland,
Yeah.
and I've gone through all the Living Greyhawk Perrinland stuff, and I find myself half the time saying, "Man, I wouldn't have developed it like this at
Yeah.
all." But
Hmm.
half the time, I was like, I think to myself, that's actually kind of an inspired idea.
Yeah, and we have to realize that it's done by the whole range of people, meaning Eric Mona and Jason Bullman wrote stuff,
Yeah,
and a bunch of others that are now the top illuminaries and professionals in the business wrote stuff for it. So
Sure.
there's some things that are simply top notch, and all the way down to things written in one afternoon just to be used the same evening without much consideration about anything. And
right.
there are some clear disasters in there too, but
Yeah.
almost all of the modules and stuff have few inklings and gems sprinkled in there, material that is kind of cool. So I've used them extensively. I would say half of the settlements and details on my map are from the Living Greyhawk campaign.
Mhm. Oh yeah. When I look at your maps, a lot of the time I look at something, I'm like, wow, how did I miss this place? And I
Yeah.
have to research it. Oh, Living Greyhawk.
Yeah.
Oh, Living
Hmm.
Greyhawk.
Yeah.
So
And a
yeah.
lot of it is not necessarily mentioned specifically in Living Greyhawk. It's kind of inferred, or I don't know if
Right.
that might be the right word. It's like someone said, the night of so and so. And the place is not named, but the night of so and so, and I realized, oh, the place so and so. That's so he has his castle there, so to speak, where he come
In
from.
fact, I would
Yeah,
go so far as to say, Anna, your map is probably the greatest reflection of Living Greyhawk's legacy that we have left.
I would say, well, maybe, yeah, with the Casey's book and my maps are some of the
Yeah.
in their
Yeah,
own
absolutely.
ways some of the best summaries of the Living Greyhawk campaign. Yeah,
Mhm.
yep,
So
that's
yeah,
the
that's I to answer the question, no, I missed Living Greyhawk
yeah.
entirely.
Mike, did you miss it too?
That's weird because I always associated Living Greyhawk with convention play.
Yeah,
I was like had an embarrassment of riches of players. I was like in three different
yeah.
groups
So
locally,
yeah, so here we
and
sit
I
all.
never needed to use Living Greyhawk.
Yeah. So all three of us, for different reasons, missed Living Greyhawk campaign, and now we're
Yeah.
some of the most staunch kind of digging into to Greyhawk as fan creators, and Carlos, you as well, doing selling stuff,
Right.
and so it's kind of interesting that we all, is it something that we want to compensate for not missing
I
that
followed the
we
core
compensate for
stuff.
missing Greyhawk. The other ones they got enough of it for a decade, and we kind of still digging in there. So yeah, it might be. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know, but it's kind of funny that way that we missed it. Yeah.
I mean, I followed all the core stuff that was out there. Creighton,
Hmm.
Broadhurst, Paul
Yeah.
Luby, uh, anything that was available on the website. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
devouring that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
followed it from a distance. I devoured everything that came my way, and in Dungeon and Dragon and Living Greyhawk Journal and stuff like that. And then when the web started coming out, I simply copied and saved all the websites and all the material that I could find, so to speak. Yep.
So yeah, as I mentioned before, in case some of you missed it or just tuning in, I wrote a 10-page mini module called "She is a Salt in Your Tears" for everyone out there who is tuned in. You guys, all you have to do in the chat is whisper your or make known your interest in having a copy, and we'll send you a copy right away. It's for high level play. It's written in first edition. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carlos, for that. That's
Oh, no
fantastic. And
problem. I
Amanda
should also
posted in
mention
chat. Yep.
I did we were talking about great villains from the past, and this one we debuted this year at GaryCon, which is When Comes the Witching Hour, which is, as you
Ooh.
can see if you look very closely at the girl behind the cauldron, we have Igwig there. So that's
Oh, that's cool. Yep.
man,
Yep.
Igwig related material.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have one question that Blake asked me on Twitter earlier today, and I haven't gotten
Okay.
around to answer it, but I
huh,
can answer it here because I hope he's still in chat watching this. And that was that he said that my maps that have different layers with different styles, And what's the choice? Is that function or appearance? And it's actually both. Function is that the PDF is layered, so you can turn on and off layers as needed. So you can create a player version of the map, or you can simply zoom out and take a snapshot of the large map and don't have all the tiny itty bitty things that are too small to be seen. And then you can kind of zoom in and skip the heraldry, for instance, if because when you zoom in, the large heraldry kind of covers a lot of areas. You can remove stuff that you don't want on the map, and it's also because that way different things are on different layers, so you can automatically see what it belongs to, and you can, so it's kind of mostly function, so you can get a map that is more useful that way, that you can have things separate, and then you can just save the version without that layer, or you can export an image from the PDF. So that's the one kind of main benefit with it, that you can easily just create your own version, like a player version or DM version with all the layers. Yep.
Blake just mentioned that Igualiv was his favorite. Actually, Igualiv is my personal favorite. Well, she was my personal favorite Greyhawk villain, but I didn't want to write about her because we had a glut of Igualiv stuff at that point in time when I was first starting with Savage Tide, when I was first starting Castle Entertainment. So I decided I was going to write about a different Greyhawk villain, and I chose Marquesa from A2, Secret of Slaver Stockade. Over time, she has become my favorite Greyhawk villain because of my players that I've gotten to play with in. Pardon me, excuse me.
Bless you.
But yeah, I've learned to love Marquesa for being as unrepentantly evil as she is. But besides that, Igualiv is such a classic favorite of mine. But you would expect that of somebody who's played in Perrinland as long as I have. Casey just asked me that nothing in Living Greyhawk ever touched Fireland. That is correct to the best of my knowledge. You certainly have a better footing than I do about Living Greyhawk. However, I researched as much of that material as humanly possible, and I did not see anything about Fireland. What I did see in Fireland is exactly 3 sentences in the entire Greyhawk canon have ever mentioned Fireland. So take that as you will.
Yep. So now, speaking about villains, now I'm interested, Mike. What's your favorite villain of the Greyhawk menagerie of baddies?
Well, first off, I mentioned that I love Igwil too. Maybe like love.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny because my friends, we used to use I use a lot, and when you would defeat the old demigod, then it's like, oh yeah, well now beat her mom, and then they're like, they're fighting her, and they're like, okay, well beat her mom. I like that it was the family tree kept spinning out of control. So
spoiler alert, I have a mention in When Comes the Witching Hour about Baba Yaga.
Ah, nice. But no, my personal favorite villain is Eli Tomarast.
Yeah.
Our castle.
Yeah.
Those demon hands. I don't know what it is about him. He's cool looking.
Yeah. It's weird. You keep mentioning these things that are kind of ties into the module of the When Comes the Witching Hour. One of the pre-generated characters in that game is his name is Stefan Maurer, and he's actually a descendant along down the family line of the Maurer lineage.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, that's so
How about
cool.
you, Anna? Who's your favorite Greyhawk of all time?
favorite.
I gotta believe it's Ayu's, right?
Nope. My favorite villain is one that is not mentioned in any of the TSR published material, but I consider him canon because Gary himself invented him. And it's Lord Vuron that is one of the closest henchmen of Grasts, So the most patient, intelligent demon alive, so to speak. That's
wow.
He's my favorite villain of all, so to speak. I used him extensively back in.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So that's my favorite, and I envision him as this skeletal thing in a white robe, like a clansman Skeleton or something like that, and he's overly wise, and he's like a dark with some glowing eyes inside it, and dark skeleton and white robes. So he because he wants to be visible, so to speak. He's not hiding in the shadows when he's present, and I love the way Gary described him in the books as being the whispering in the ears of the masters, ever scheming, ever smart, ever patient, very intelligent, kind of not the
Sure.
normal run of your mill demon at all. I don't think he's chaotic really. He's yeah. So but that's probably my favorite villain. Yep.
That's a great pick.
Celestia mentioned Vecna. I used Vecna so much in second edition that when I rebooted my campaign, which I often do for each edition,
Yeah.
I had a no Vecna clause because like I had
Ah.
over. All right, no more Vecna, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was 2 editions ago. Maybe it's time to bring him back.
It might be, yeah, exactly. The things that we got too much of a couple of decades ago might be perfect to bring back some of the stories. I was thinking about doing, when I'm doing a historic map of the Flannies, that the Empire of Vecna is one of the sure ones to kind of put the kind of nail down a little bit. Yeah.
The only time I have ever done anything with Vecna myself is when playing through the published modules, whether it be Vecna Lives or Die Vecna Die or anything like that.
Yeah.
However, for Castle Entertainment, we ran a Christmas game. I ran a Christmas game for a bunch of people, and they ended up time traveling back to the Isles of Woe, and they didn't get quite far enough through it, but Vecna was going to be involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Nah, I haven't done much with the Cult of Incubulus. Very little, but very cool villain.
I love a lot of Greyhawk's minor deities and things like that. So one of the things, Michael, if you remember through the Marquesa game, and I think Anna probably remember, there's a character in there called the Pallid Maiden, and she is an anti-paladin of Cyril, goddess of lies and deceit.
Yeah.
And I always liked Cyril as a god. I thought she was kind of.
Is that Suluas or what
yeah,
pantheon?
Yeah, she's one of the Sewell pantheon.
Okay,
she's
yep.
from the Sewell pantheon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, yeah, minor god in that minorly used, but actually major gods in status.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's unfortunately, because Greyhawk has so many deities, a lot of them end up people either forget them or they get underused like that, even if they're major gods.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, you talk about the Olman people, and Quetzalcoatl is a major god, major deity. But does anyone ever really use him in the Greyhawk setting? I did when I ran in one of my other modules that I wrote called Zavod for the game. But that's really, you don't get to see too much of that. Tezcatlipoca is the same way.
Well, I guess sometimes when it comes to published stuff, it's definitely you go with fan favorite stuff. So I can see where like Vecna would really catch on and become a core deity and blah, blah, blah.
You know, though, I will say this. Like I said, Greyhawk fandom has been forced to dig deep for material and such. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's more fans out there of these minor deities. For example, if I were to write a module and it was going to be all about the Church of Daern, I think you guys would love that.
Oh,
Daern,
okay.
goddess of defense and fortifications, the hero goddess.
Wow.
I think you guys would love that because no one's ever really done anything with
exactly.
that.
There is so much to dig into. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Wu wants to know how well-known villains are to the common peasant folk in our campaigns.
That's a very interesting
I'd say very unknown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're doing it right?
To me, I'll give you an example. In Perilland, where I play so much, everybody knows the stories of the Witch Queen.
Oh, right.
It's been so long ago, though, a lot of people some of the people don't know that her name was Igoliv, but they know the Witch Queen. She's the boogeyman that always haunts in the corners of, that the mothers tell their children to scare them into giving them respect and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, she's one example of a major deity, or excuse me, a major villain, I think, that people probably, especially in that area, know about. Now, even though we had the Flight of Fiends and she was such a big part of the Greyhawk Wars, does everybody know about her? Probably not.
Yeah, like the Horn Society, you shouldn't really know who they are. They're all
No, no,
anonymous, aren't they?
Yeah.
especially now,
Yeah.
especially now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, you have to know IUs. It's like another
In
boogeyman in the
Yeah,
north. But
in my campaign that I'm going to that I keep writing, we'll see when I will start doing it. But we will be set in the Shield Lands in 598, 599. So long after the invasion of IUs and stuff. Then he for people there, they don't know about IUs by name, so to speak. He's just the old one, and he's selling his empire as the old empire because he wants to pretend that he's always been around, he's the most powerful, and it's part of political propaganda. So
Right.
everyone just refers him as the old one, meaning the all powerful old one, and the empire is the old empire. There used to be a great kingdom, but his is the old empire, meaning it's the one ruling it all, so to speak. So for the common person growing up in Shieldlands after the fact, so to speak, then they don't talk about Ayus or name him. He's just the old one. And for a lot of people living there, it could be the closest high priest they have could be the old one, so to speak. They're not
Mm.
aware of how high up in the hierarchy they actually see it, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's the local asshole they have of Ayus, and his priesthood is the representatives of the old one, and some of them would simply exonerate and simply I am the old one for everyone, so to speak. So he's
So
probably very chaotic that way.
I guess to answer the question, it's regionally based and based on
Yeah.
profile.
Mm-hmm.
If they were operating in that area at a high profile, like Igul live in Perrinland
Yep.
or IUs in the Shield Lands,
Yep.
yeah, I think people know about them. But
Yeah.
if it's someone like Marquesa or it's someone like Imai Tomaras, nobody has any idea
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah,
And
like the Tomarats, the Seekers
Mhm.
know who he is
Yeah.
because he used to be one of them. But
Sure,
that was
but I mean, as far as the common peasant
yeah,
folk is
and I
aware.
would say in my campaign the same thing, meaning those people that live in the free city of Greyhawk, they are kind of smart enough, and they live in an area that has more free, open, and free. I mean, they know who Ayus is, and every peasant farmer in Furundi knows about him, and
Yeah.
and in Critwall, where the Shieldlanders still rule in my campaign, everyone knows who the enemy is. There's no question about it, so to speak.
Sure.
So it's because
Yeah, I
they
mean,
have that
if
free
you live if
speech
you
and
live on Amundfort or
yeah,
Scragholm Island, you
yeah.
better believe you know who I use is.
Exactly, they all know about it. That's what they learned the first, meaning that's the enemy, and yeah, and it's more like you should be scared of him, but not scared enough that you because fighting him is the important thing, so to speak. So
Correct.
so they probably
Now,
something
Tim,
instead of
uh,
baptize him that you have to swear an allegiance that you're going to fight him for the rest of your life, so to speak.
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah.
We got a couple things on the chat. Tim asked me about the Dayern module that I briefed. Now that you said that, I'm going to write a mini module about it. So I'll
Oh,
add that to the
cool.
list. And as far as Raxavort goes, I have never written anything about Raxavort. Why not? Well,
I've done some
I'll
comics
put
about
some
him.
together for him too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that one of the things that, for better or for worse, I'm pretty prolific as far as module writing goes. In about the last year and a half, I've been able to do 12 to 14 modules and a bunch of minis. So you'll see some of that stuff that you mentioned. If anytime you guys want to see stuff, you just have to let me know on Castle Entertainment on Facebook or through email or through some other channel. Let me know. I like if I know that the community wants to see something, I'll give it to them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's awesome. So we can get something more. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Now,
It might be an adventure card or a mini module.
mm-hmm.
It may never be a full blown thing, but you'll get to see it at some level.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, Mike, any
Yeah.
first tangents or stuff we should dig into?
Sure.
I'm digging into, but please go into
I got another website
Yeah.
people should go to
Mm-hmm.
if you
Okay.
don't already. You guys should be checking out Jason Zavoda's blog, Hall of the Mountain King.
Yes.
For sure.
He's been putting out a lot of Greyhawk stuff here lately.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say he's like back in production or something.
Yeah.
I can't even keep up with the stuff he's
It's
posting
like
daily.
one every couple of days about
Oh,
trade and
yeah,
stuff. That
it's
would be ooh
and I
so
can't
cool.
tell what's like old stuff or what's new stuff. He's just putting out so much stuff.
Yep.
If there
Uh,
is somebody that in our community that we owe a debt to, it's him for that, for Encyclopedia Greyhawk.
yeah,
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 definitely. We need to see if we can get him on the show. That will be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yep. So, hey, Goon,
Yep.
definitely.
So that
And no,
yeah,
my
that was a
modules of Ode is not an homage to Jason.
Yeah.
no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's Zavod is it's a Russian term for foundry or factory. So,
Yep. It's so cool.
which you played in too, Anna. I should
Yes.
mention you played in Zavod. So
Yep.
you can vouch for that.
Yep. Yeah, that was the first awesome tangent we have. I have one other that I kind of alluded to in the beginning when I did the map stream a couple of days ago. Is that the talk a little bit about new icons and stuff. So
Hmm.
the you long seen all of you that are familiar with my maps. You've seen the icons that I have for towns and cities, and the towns are round and the cities are octagonal, and the big ones are squared, and the little village are like pentagons, or yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ones. But then I realized now I'm working on Lendor Isles, and I'm going to zoom in. So instead of a mile per pixel, it will be like 100 feet per pixel. So having a city and a town symbol is kind of useless. Symbols are there to show things that are too small to be visible on the map. That's the basic idea of why you use symbols. But if take a major city will all of a sudden be hundreds and maybe thousands of pixels across. So you will actually see a lot of things. So you need to kind of change it. The biggest, but when you zoom out, and I want a new set of icons that are more kind of useful for much more zoomed in. So I was thinking then, instead of using, let's see if we can move into here. So instead of having just a little symbol for each thing, then every settlement area will have simply be a yellow blob. This is very much work in progress. This is just an idea, so to speak. And those of you who have used Rand McNally atlases, or other car atlases when you're out doing, then you can see that areas like towns and cities and stuff, they are outlined in whatever. So I just picked the same color that I used for Greyhawk symbols since the beginning, so to speak. So the area of a city or a town from a village and upwards will simply be the area it covers in yellow. But then I realized what can you add for functionality for it. So my idea was, what you need to know what the fortifications are. So you can simply say that if a settlement only has like a simple wooden palisade, or like a fence or something, or just the very basics of defenses, you can just put a dotted line around it. And then if they do some earthworks, there's like some built up, and then you put little wall on top of it. That was very common on primitive fortifications. And then what if they have a moat? Then you can add a moat in the symbology. And one of the benefits of doing it like this is that you can draw one line, and then you have simply a graphical, or it's like a template. So it's style. So you simply draw the line, and then you give it whatever style it is. It's simple to do in Illustrator. You can do it in QGIS and other stuff. So you can have it standardized that way. And then we move up a little bit and say that, okay, what if they have an advanced one? They put real logs, and they put like walkways, crenellations in wood, there are towers and all sorts of stuff. Then we're into advanced wooden fortifications. So they're like, you put up the advanced wooden fortifications, and you make like, you put like you dig like a trench in front of them, outside of them, and you have them with the moat again. And then you have the next step. Then we say that, okay, now we have primitive stone ones. Make a stone wall, and you have the same. So that's the idea I'm going with. And then you
Wow.
can add symbology for like advanced stoneworks, like a proper city wall, like the great city of Greyhawk, Divers, and other cities have like real proper defenses, maybe a double wall and all that stuff. So that was my idea, to make area maps that have iconography similar to something like this. That was my idea of doing it. This is just a very early test phase, so to speak. But that's the kind of, I think that might be something that might be useful for players to have
Anna,
icons
I'd like
like
to
this.
ask you a question about your Lendor maps.
Sure.
Besides L1, 2, and 3, and some of the source material that Len Lakofka has done for subsequent to his work with TSR,
Yeah.
what other sources are you using to
I
for
it
stuff on the Lendor Isles?
that's basically the only sources I've found.
Okay.
That it's the islands are mentioned here and there, but it's usually Len's
Right.
comments in Dragon
Yeah,
magazines and
that's
stuff.
what
So
I thought. I just
yeah,
wondered if you had
yeah.
pulled
No,
something that I
no,
wasn't aware of.
no. That's all I've found. So and it's kind of an interesting thing, and I would love to have Len on the show here to so we can talk about the Lendor Isles. But there are at least two versions. There's like the TSR version, and then there's Len Lakofka's version. So I realized
Correct.
I need to do at least two maps. And
Mhm.
then I realized I probably screwed up the isles so much that I need to do a version for my own campaign too. So there will be, but the terrain will be the same. What would differ are some of the settlements and stuff that might differ. So we have to have at least the official TSR version, so to speak, where the Laurel Tarma, the capital, is on the mainland, on the main island, and then we have to have Len the Kafka's version where it's actually in the location he intended it to have
Uh-huh.
on the little one of the minor islands south of the main island instead. So
Okay.
at least those two versions have to be there, I guess. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah. So, but I will be lazy enough that do so I do the terrain all in one, so to speak. And I have a few screenshots, so we'll see if I can get. I can probably have a few screenshots here, and we can see what we can have in the forums.
While you're
Yeah.
looking for those, I saw in the chat. I wanted to mention something. We were talking about conventions earlier, and the cool people you get to meet in our community from them. At the beginning of every game that I run, I have what's called a character draft. Everybody rolls percentage dice. Highest character person that rolls gets to choose the first pre-gen they want. Um, Sometimes that works out really well and you get characters you like. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well. You're left stuck with a class you don't want.
Hmm.
But every so often, it's magic, and you get somebody that takes a character and really makes it their own. In the game that I was mentioning with Anna that she played Zavod, I got to meet one of her close friends, Linda Booth, who is from North Dakota, and
Hmm.
she took one of the pre-gens named Zoe and made it absolutely her own. She just was in the chat saying hello, and I just had to absolutely mention, give her a shout out for being one of my most valuable players. That was the module, by the way. That's Zavod with the owl bear on the front of it. But anyway, I just saw her in chat, and I wanted
Yeah.
to
Oh,
give
it's
her a shout
awesome.
out
Yeah,
because
highly
she's a
doubt it.
member of the Greyhawk community that maybe some of you guys don't know, but she's an expert player,
Well
and
done.
she does a lot of really cool stuff with the Amidio jungle.
Hmm.
And that's something that not a lot of you guys or any of us really touch too much. She's going to become a very important link for us to learn more about the Amidio as we go.
Sweet.
That's super cool. So I have a few. I'm opening the file here as we speak, but I have a few already. Here is a little bit of a sneak peek on the island. This is just a snapshot. I'm opening the file on my other 3D machine in the background here, so we can look at it live. But this
Awesome.
is a bit that. So what I'm done so far is that I've now modeled the elevation on all of the islands, the main island and all of the surrounding islands down. And this is, I can render it in at any resolution basically, but I will try and render it so it will be roughly 100 feet per pixel. That's the goal. And now I'm just going to need to change the resolution on my other machine here so I can show it. That's one
Your
of the things
computer
when,
must have enough RAM to launch the space shuttle.
well,
Hmm.
it's this one has 128 gigabytes in RAM, my 3D machine. So yeah, so we'll see here. We put that one in here, and now we can actually look at it in. Here we go. So yeah, now I'm just gonna do this, and we can move it in here and do like this. Now it's actually running the live thing here. So now I can move in a bit, and we can look at the actual islands a bit. So I'm thinking about Lindor Isle is this set of volcanic islands that were not volcanic at the moment, but they came to be as a volcano. So there's this center, and was a lake built in, or it's a lake situated in the middle of the islands, and there's some highlands up in the middle. The basic maps are very, very rudimentary, so to speak. They are pretty to look at, but they don't have much in the form of landscape detail and stuff. So this takes a few seconds for it to render, because World Machine is not that fast of a software. So instead of we waiting for this, we can actually go in and we can look at it top down, and I can also move the area of interest over here. So we have this area in the middle here is where I envision the old kind of crater that is eroded over a long time since the islands were formed, so to speak. So, and then I put the rivers in, but so you can get a little bit of detail. We can take this area here, and I'll go in and render this area in the background here. So it will take like a couple of minutes. So I go back to us looking, and instead of we have to stare at the progress bar. That's one of the problems in what I do with mapping, is that I have to look at these progress bars constantly, constantly, constantly. So often you work on Photoshop in one end, and you work on a 3D machine in the background. So yeah.
Anna, you mentioned volcanoes.
Yeah.
That's something we don't have enough of on Earth.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
On Fireland, because Gary's one comment on it on Dragon's Foot was think Iceland.
Yeah.
I've had to do a lot of I've had to do a lot of terrain with volcanoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that will be fun. We have the hell furnaces. That's kind of
the hell furnaces, but that's really about it.
Well, you have
White plume.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so white plume and hell furnaces. So there are, but those are the only active volcanoes that I know of. But on the other hand, if you take a continent Europe size, or like Flannies, it should be a few more. So it's kind of neat to have the Fireland as kind of a volcanic, really cool place.
Fireland, according to what you've read in the source material, I believe this is in Greyhawk: The Adventure Begins. There actually it's an archipelago made up of four different islands: the Greater Island of Fire, Lesser Island of Fire, Spurta, and Bearhout. But the Lesser Island of Fire actually has something very unique, Earth's only cryovolcano, which I won't say anything else about.
That is so cool. Yep.
Yes, we have cryovolcanism there.
Yep, this is so cool.
Any of you who know a little bit about...
Well, I watched how the universe works and all the kind of cool things nowadays, so it's kind of cool. Now I'm going to go back in here and show you a little bit. This is... you have to, this is not textured at all. So the colors you see here are my working colors, so I can see from a technical standpoint that the earth is, that the terrain is modeled properly. So what you see is that the green areas here are the lowest in elevation, and then they get more and more yellow, and then red, and then they move into gray and blue, and then finally white the higher there. So I can check the elevation. And then you have a couple of types of water and stuff here. So you have the lakes and the rivers. You have the major rivers and the lakes, and these are things that I've added manually, so they actually match the existing map. So and a few. So if we go take the major lake here, this is the one that is on the big map, and this here is just a few hexes. So it's just a few hundred pixels on the existing map, and here this will be probably about 8,000 pixels across. Instead of 200 pixels or 150 or something, it will be 8,000 at least when it's done. And then you have these kind of, if we follow the river from the lake here, so you have the river meandering down the valley, and this is elevated properly. So the lake has a certain elevation that I don't know it. I don't have it in this map mode, but I can find it's a few thousand feet over the sea level, and then the river actually meanders downhill. And for those of you that think that the river and looks a bit too wide, it's because the blue area covers not only the actual waterway, but it covers the whole river bed, so to speak. So what I will do when I render it, I will go into Photoshop and paint in the actual flow of the river that meanders and go back. So there are banks and there are deep holes and all sorts of stuff that will be added in. So this blue area is where the river as wide as can be, so to speak, because rivers, they kind of flatten out an area. If you go out in the mountains and you see a river, the water kind of meanders down on the river valley, and there is like a lot of sediment and stuff in a flat area around the river, most of it. And then there are some narrow gaps here that are full of water that are probably waterfalls and stuff. So this is not 100% geologically accurate, but it's very close. And then we have all these kind of small blue flows here that are a little bit darker. These are what my term that I use in my programming is called creeks. And it's basically the program figures out all the areas that could potentially have little creeks or tiny rivers flowing on them. And what I do is I export all these creeks. I export them as a separate mask in Photoshop. And then I can simply tell, okay, this little creek, if we go here, for instance, this one it goes in, that kind of ends before it reaches the main one. So this will not happen. But here we have a couple of good candidates here. They flow all the way and then down here. So I will keep this and discard this one, for instance. And that means that I get all the rivers that are less than 100 feet, or like small creeks that are less than 100 feet will actually, or up, that are not almost like 100 feet or 100 feet, they will show up on the map. So there will be a whole network of rivers and small creeks and small lakes. Like here is a tiny little lake system with a little island and stuff. So all this detail will be in on the final map, so to speak. So
Good Lord.
yeah, so it will be fairly geologically accurate. You can see the river kind of cut through the river valley, and there will be more small rivers coming in here, tributaries, and here is another tributary that will be perfect to keep. So the whole terrain here will be full, and here you have another little lake. There's some swamp lands around here. There will be some reeds and a whole bunch of stuff down the line here. And then it comes out, and here's another lake down here, and then it continues to flow in. So this is the kind of detail that will be on the final map. And here we have another lake that starts with some rivers coming in, and then we have here we have a river that it's kind of looks really cool. It starts up here and then it flows down and it cuts in more and more into a river valley. And then you see so this is the area, and then it meanders down and it cuts more and more as it progresses towards the ocean. And then you have another tributary that comes from the east here. So there are a whole bunch of stuff. And if we look at I just take a screenshot here, and from if you look at the final what the actual map looks like. So we're looking at this area here. We're looking at this as the major lake that is up there. They have a little bit different shape because fractals are a little bit they will be, but it's roughly the same. And then you have that river that we followed down here, and it goes all the way down. So if you look at we can move the area in scope here, so we can go down to where Reston Ford is and look through. We didn't see that kind of area when it cuts through so we're going to move down here, and now I need to render it again so we can look at it. But we'll take a couple of minutes and we can babble about something else for a couple of minutes, and then look at the area down to the Restonford. But that's the kind of detail. So this will be an actual virtual terrain model of the island, so to speak, down to
That's
you could.
so cool.
Yeah. So
your rivers are amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, they're kind of cool, and even I've looked at. So this is something I can brag about, that my rivers they are not the best accurate. There is a river function in World Machine, but it's not. I don't like the looks of it, so I wanted more controllable rivers, because the rivers need to match what's already on the map, and that's one of my problems. You can make rivers that are geologically accurate, but the problem is that they will go wherever the fractals tell them to do. I need to tell that the river needs to go exactly here, and then the nature need to river valley will be created around the river, and that creates a problem
Huh.
when you have a terrain that you need to match. That's the problem in fantasy map making, is that it's
Yeah.
okay if you just conjure up something and then go with whatever you come up with, like random just create an island. That's okay, but here it needs to match the descriptions in the adventures. It needs to match the existing maps, etc., and
Right.
yada yada.
When
So
I was creating my Fireland maps for Rob Lazzaretti, I was giving him instruction. We ran into the same thing.
yeah,
That
yeah,
where does the geology end and the this has to be here
yeah.
begin?
Mm-hmm. So if we look at the here, look at this part here, the river here. The river is barely visible here. It goes here and then it goes over this area here, and that area with all the rocks is this area here. And one of the cool things, I actually taken these ridges that are visible on the big previous maps I did, was something that looked so cool in Bryce back like 20 years ago, so I just had to incorporate them. So I had to go in World Machine and create these kind of weird kind of fissures or ridges going through the landscape. That is kind of cool. And one of the awesome thing is that one of my friends who is a landscape photographer in England actually told me that there are parts of the English coast that has these lines and
Oh, wow.
fissures going out like that. So they are actually precedents for it. So that's probably why they originally appeared in Bryce, that you can actually paint them in. So now I had to manually kind of program them in through the landscape, and they're kind of just a little bit spicing up in as a fantasy. And then the river goes
Like,
in this valley down here, and it forms a little bit of a canyon, and then it comes up to more like a flatland here, and here will be some marshes, and so this will be marshes and lake systems and stuff, and then it comes down here, and here you have like a coastal marshy area where, and you have that must be the town of Restenford. We'll see here if I go back here, we can, no, that was the wrong one. There's so many windows and stuff to do here. Yeah, so the town of Restenford is actually down here somewhere. So Restenford probably in here or something. So they built the town between here so they can kind of have a little bit of a somewhere to hide in here. So that way we can build the town in this area. So you can have a port that you can sail in and out here. You can kind of dig it, channel, and do it. So I try to model this area so it will be suitable to build a town and a good defensive spot, and it's a way. So there's like this coastal marshy area. So that's a bit present, and then you have all these tiny little possible rivers. Like here will be a one leading out in the ocean, and then there will be like forests and properly textured and stuff. This will look photoreal when it's done. So I'm really proud. This is my most advanced model to date. And I love how the terrain is very, very varied here. Like it's rugged, and there's a whole bunch of cool ridges and stuff. And then there's some here, some areas like some valleys where you can, and flatlands and stuff that you can do agriculture and things, and that will be forested and stuff. So yep. So this is the current state of the Lendor Isles. So there's some rivers to
great.
be added, and so on. Then the terrain modeling is done, and I'm exporting it out, and then I will import it in again and add some erosions and a little bit of small features here and there to make it even more realistic, and shave off some of the ugly spots that oh, they come. They're inevitable. There are some things that are too straight and too sharp, and so on. So there are a few things that I need to shave off a little bit, work on erosion, and maybe a few ugly spots. And then take it into Photoshop and work on all the masks and start working on the texturing, and then take it into Gaia and render real proper maps for biomes and stuff, so we can figure out what the different climates are, where forests go, and then it's ready to render. and
Good
then we can
Lord.
render the final results in view and stuff, and we can get landscape photos and top down views, isometric views, and all the
And then
cool
you can
and
put a
stuff.
great magic cloud system over top of it and
Yes,
send it to Len
exactly.
and see what
And
he
Len
thinks of
will
it.
be pissed off and say there won't be no clouds. And yeah, that's one of the other things that yeah, because that was something that was added in Living Greyhawk was the clouds that were ever present around it that steered off all the when the elves took over the island. So yeah.
Right.
Yep. So that was my first tangent of today was to show a little bit of the Lendor Isles project. But it's coming along, and this fall there will be Landor Isles, and I showed on my, if you go back to my channel to on Twitch, if you want to see how this is done technically, I did a walkthrough of how the file is structured and all, and that's not the topic for this channel, but if you're interested in it, you can get into it. And if you get a hold of and want to do stuff like this for yourself, join my Patreon and you will get the source file for this, and so you can play with it and you can work with it and you can make your own islands and tweak them
Hmm.
into whatever you
As
want, so to
somebody,
speak.
as a backer of your Patreon, I have to say it's worth every penny.
Thank
It's
you, thank you. Yep.
everybody should definitely take a look at it.
Yep. So yeah. So that was the and the ultimate goal with this would be to start taking area after area in Flanies and do at this. So Lindor Isle is the first test area to model in full virtual, so to speak, and then the Ratik or Ratik is the second area, because I had some of my first staunch patrons were always like, oh, I want to see that one. So that was the second. The Lendor Isle was voted in my Facebook group, the Flanies Geographical Society, voted for Lendor Isles to be the first test area. And the first onshore, meaning the first part actual of the actual Flanies of the subcontinent, will be Ratik. And then it will be up to my patrons to decide where we go next in next year. So there will be, so we'll see. There might be, yeah, we will see. There will be one area roughly about 300, 400, 500 miles across or something like that, that we have to take into consideration with some cool. They should have some cool gaming significance, meaning people want to game there, but it should also have some cool geographical feature, like a high mountain or something like that, and or not too difficult though. And then comes the really cool ones that I want to do like this, and that's like the Rift Canyon and stuff like that. I want to have Rift Canyon modeled in this detail, all depths as well. So yeah.
So many people love the Bandit Kingdoms and that whole
Yeah.
the whole area that I'm sure that'll be very well
Yeah,
received.
and Gary had an awesome one. See the valleys around Spine Castle, and I must say yes, Spine Castle is one of my favorite locations. So that is high
Yep.
on my list. But we will have a poll, so all my patrons will have a vote on it later. So I'm going to kick off the discussion with a post saying that now is the time to nominate what should be on that poll, and then I'll weed out the ones that say Sea of Dust and things that are 5,000 miles across or something like that. So there will be something for technical reasons that might not make it, so to speak. And
Right.
also, and then when we have a list of 5 or so candidates, then that will come to a vote this summer on my Patreon, and then that will be the third area to have it in in for next year. Yep. Okay, now I've gone on with some
Yeah.
icons and some. So now we've had the map tangent for today. Now we have half an hour left, so to speak. What, Mike?
Half an
What
hour.
tangents more? Any more, or Carlos? Any more cool tangents you want to dig into here? Yeah.
Mike, would you like to go
Um,
first?
well, I'm currently working on a blog post involving forests of the Flanaess.
Oh,
Can't go into much more detail than that, but it's just kind of a little
that is so cool.
fluffy piece that I'm
Mhm.
working on. I often will sit and stare at the map and think to myself, what uh, obscure, silly something haven't we studied yet?
Mhm.
Uh, and then I'll just start researching and typing up some answer to it,
Yeah.
like how deep is the Lake of Unknown Depths or
Yeah.
something like that.
Mhm. Yep.
For myself, the current project is, as I mentioned, I'm gearing up for more conventions going forward. I've got 3 module ideas, none of which I have dug into quite yet, because what I'm doing is I'm building up my stock. When I first launched my Patreon, I was going to offer adventure cards, much like the you found in the From the Ashes box set.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I realized that I'm completely incapable of writing anything shorter than 5 pages for a mini module because I like detail too much. So I wanted to put more encounters and things in there. So now I'm calling them mini modules. I've got 15 different locations in the Flanaess that I want to deal with and different concepts I want to deal with. So I'm in the middle of working on those 15. A good example of the kind of thing I'm doing is what you are looking at in the module that I wrote for you guys tonight. But if anybody wants to check out, everyone has any suggestions of things that they want to see, whether it be on the Patreon or something else, go ahead and just drop me a line. I'm willing to entertain all kinds of concepts. So things that I want this to be a reflection of what the community wants to see.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
for example, I haven't seen an adventure in the United Kingdom of Alyssa before, so I decided to write one based in Alyssa. Onwall, Sundi. I'm
Yeah.
doing some
Mm-hmm.
just different places like that where
Yeah.
no one's quite touched them yet. I my old stomping grounds, as I said a few times here, is Perrinland, but I like just about everything in the Flanaess. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Yeah.
even willing to address stuff off the map, as I mentioned before with Fireland. Until Fireland's released, I'm not ready to release any modules for that, or adventures. I'm not touching that. I'm building up stuff for that, but I'm more than willing to write about stuff that's off the map. So yeah, so right now it's busy time for Carlos writing adventures, lots and lots
Oh,
of
that's
adventures.
cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm lucky enough that I can have between that and I'll go ahead and promo it again. Lost Dog. This is the charity module I was talking about
Mm-hmm.
here, um, which takes place in the Free City of Greyhawk, or in the module just the Free City. Um, so we'll be doing the charity thing there too, and you can expect to see a lot more stuff from us in the next year coming. And
That's
based on how successful everything is, I hope to be adding more and more features
yeah.
so that you guys are getting some really cool products here by the end of the year.
Oh, that's awesome. I got a question from Duane Costa. Any updates on the 576 map? And yeah, to be honest, right now I feel horrible because I've worked really hard on Cobalt Press and one other project I'm doing for Griffin Lore Games. So that will keep me basically busy all through until
Yeah.
June. So work on the 576 map, and Hipmona Land will commence in, and I think I will do the 576 first. So that will commence in June, and hopefully there's a little chance that my patrons might get it for Gen Con. I can't promise it, but I will really hard work on it to get my patrons to get their hands on the 576 map by
Awesome.
version by Gen Con. I hope so, but we'll see, because I roughly around July 1st, and I bet it will be a 3-4 week full-time work. So maybe if I work 80-hour a week or something like that for 2 weeks, then I might be able to pull that off. So that's
Awesome.
yeah, that's the thing. And then when I have that done, then it will be Lindor Isle and Hipmona Land in parallel. And the Lindor Isle is actually not that enormous amount of, it's a lot of work with it, but it's the problem with it's not that much work if I done it by routine. But the Lindor Isle, it's cutting edge technology. It's a workflow I never really done that detailed before. I did one island project last year for my patron. The second project I did, that was the technically most advanced project I'd done to date. And the good thing with that island was that it didn't turn out as good as I wanted, and it was way too complicated. But I learned a lot from it. So the Lendor Isle I'm doing now has the I kind of learned from the mistake, and that was a set of generic islands I just did in order to figure out how to really do detailed maps. And then that was the same resolution as the Lendor Isles. But the cool thing is that I got a set of islands that are about 100 miles across that are super detailed down to so I'll show you a screenshot here in a few minutes. But one of my what I was thinking that I haven't really added anything to the map myself, just like I've taken Mike's old stuff and I've taken a lot of other people's stuff. So I'm actually thinking these little set of islands, I will make them my little contribution to the map eventually. So coming out next year, I think that I will add them into, and I was thinking somewhere, I think that this is something I thought I read. Might be my dreaming of hallucination of something I read, that there are some tiny islands between Fireland and the Flannies. Halfway there,
Hmm.
there's some little speck like the Azores, a little speck of islands out there somewhere
Hmm.
that in between Fireland, the main islands, and or south of Firelands, there is some tiny little
What is
islands.
the distance
It's with
from
distance,
Fireland to
we're talking
Hawaii?
probably 1,000, 2,000 miles or something like that. So
Almost
it's yeah,
exactly 2,000 miles.
yeah,
Damn.
something like yeah. So there might be something, let's say 800 miles southwest of Fireland or something like that. That might be some tiny little islands that are too far away for them to be connected in any way,
Right.
but
Hmm.
they're out there, so to speak, because the Solnor Ocean is so big that you can hide half a continent out there and no one would know
I
about
have
it.
some notes. I have some notes on that I'll share with you that we
Oh,
can.
that's awesome. So yeah, so I have the let's see here. We have islands here. We have the promo. I have the group of islands here, and here here they are. So I can actually go in here and show them. This is the what the islands look like. So this is the first fully detailed project that I did, so to speak. That was really high tech, and these islands are about 100 miles across. And there's some. If you take a look at the this little island here in the distance here, are if you take a closer look, you can actually see this is an isometric close-up view of that island, and you can see individual trees, and there's some houses and stuff here too. And I had a wonderful poll, and one of the cool stories that came up, that Brian Darnell, one of my best role-playing buddies, he came up with an awesome story that on this island here is a brewery where monks brew beer, and it's such an awesome, and they only have a brew ready every century, and people are lined up to get beer or whatever they're brewing from that monastery every 100 years or so. So, so,
Very
so
cool.
that was the backstory he came up, because I had for my patrons had a bunch of different locations here that was located that are actually, so if you zoom in, this might not be realistic, but there are
One of
some
those close.
buildings and stuff. So this is the kind of detail that was on this map, and this was the first one. So it was there was some shortcomings, and it was technically overcomplicated and stuff, but the results were still impressive, so to speak. And so this is what I am. So I was thinking taking these islands and actually making them a location out there in the Solnor Ocean for people to come, and then I can publish them as, and people, if they like them, they can keep them in their version of the campaign, and if not, then what the heck, then yeah. So that will be something that my patrons have been playing with for a year now, but that's something that will come, and I will write them in and place them on the map. And this is kind of as close to an aerial photography you can come, so to speak. So this is Lendor Isles will look better than this. They will look
Wow.
better than this. So this is but this is what I'm aiming for, so to speak. You can actually go in and say that my little keep, I want that on that little hill there, or and these are the areas where my horse go grazing and during the daytime and stuff like that. You can run a battle on the island using this map. It could work as a battle map.
Dang.
That's the goal with the next set of generation map, is going from just pinpointing an adventure location to actually run the battle and say that we are here at the edge of the forest, and then the dragon comes and attacks. Should we run in the forest? Is it big enough to, or should we simply run down to the lake here or whatever? So you can kind of run outdoor adventures like you run dungeon adventures. That's the idea with this, that you can run an outdoor adventure just like you run in whatever. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that way it will be, you can treat them basically the same. And there's a whole bunch of locations. There is a little village here with a bunch of houses and stuff. So let's see, I can probably find some locations here. We can see here is one little location. You can see some more that these are early. Yeah, so but there will be some presentation on this later on that will have all the details on it. So we'll see here. And there is also top-down versions of these maps. So this is what the top-down map will be. So you can have individual trees, and then you can see this is an early version of, you saw those flow lines and stuff. I've done it much better now than it used to be. So it will be better than this, but it will be at least this detail, so you can actually have, say that this little area here is my little domain, and I have a keep up here, and we go this way down to the ocean and stuff like that. So yeah.
Wow. So awesome.
So I'm sorry, now I'm getting into more tangents again. That was yeah.
We've had a couple questions that I
Perfect.
kind of want to address on the chat. The
Yeah.
first one was from Bavix. He mentioned Verbabonk and Rook Roost. Yes, there is absolutely a chance that I will run, that I will create some modules in a series based on those.
Oh, that will be
I
so
love doing
cool.
series of modules,
Yeah.
mostly because it allows me to create continuity. Which would you be more interested in seeing, Verbabonk or Rook Roost? And I can start on those pretty
Yeah,
quickly, actually.
Rook Roost
The
will
other
be
question somebody mentioned was Wu-Tang Piglet was wanting to know about gnomes and heroes in my adventures. Well, it's funny you should mention that. I have an adventure that I ran at the secondary con I worked at, and it's called Indomine Septum. Those are my gnomes right over there. Yes, those are giant pear mounts. Okay, so the deal is it's an homage to the Magnificent Seven, in which I have decided that in the county of Ulick, there is a monastery that was created. It's sanctified to Merlin, actually. The gnomes there practice a martial art, actually. So they're a very interesting crew there. Like I said, it's an homage to Seven Samurai, and the second of the modules series is right there, called Who Sits Upon the Oaken Throne, which is, I developed Journery for the first time, the city of Journery. I don't think anyone's ever touched that in published.
No, it's one of these kind of devoid of detailed areas. Even Living Greyhawk kind of just skipped over it.
Yeah, actually, I had to do a lot of research on there and found out that nobody really did anything with the city. So
look at my map; it's empty. That area is basically empty. Yeah,
I have created an entire background for the city of Journery, and mention a certain area in there that we've never heard about before, called the Eagles Area. That is, it's pretty cool. I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. So yes, I have adventures with gnomes as the heroes.
That's
if
awesome.
you like, if you like some Oriental Adventures rules in your game, it also takes advantage of Oriental Adventures rules. What I wanted to do is I wanted to make it just kind of something really off the wall. I remember when I was at GaryCon a couple years ago, I was asked to throw together an off schedule game, and a couple people played gnomes, and they really loved it and wanted gnomish adventures from me. Wanted something crazy, so that's where I came up with those two, and people seem to really like it. I know Tim Decker is out there. He played in the last session of it, the Who Sits Upon the Oaken Throne, this year at GaryCon. I thought it was a really successful game, and everybody seems to enjoy it quite a bit. So yes, we do have modules with gnomes in them.
Yep, cool. Yep, yeah, Rook Roost. Yep, yep. We have to start a
Rook Roost.
Yep.
All right, Rook Roost it is.
Any Bandit Kingdom stuff. We want to see more Bandit Kingdom stuff.
I would never think about doing anything Bandit Kingdoms without consulting Casey. He's the expert on it.
Yeah,
So
I was thinking Stoink was so when you read the Gord books, it was so much fun. Stoink was kind of
I
this,
can't.
yeah.
I every time somebody brings it up, I can't help myself. I was so heartbroken when I found out that Wasp Nest City of Stoink wasn't going to be released. Remember when it was promoed?
Yes.
Gary said, "Yeah, we're
Yep.
going to do a whole box set." Oh, what a
Yeah. Yeah,
heartbreaking moment.
that's the if someone could dig that out and share it, that would be so cool if it
Well, we've
even
got Paul
existed.
Stormberg on the case, I guess. So
Oh, okay.
maybe he'll be able to dig that out. I think he did mention that there was some Stoink stuff in there.
Ooh.
So yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if the one that I really want to see too that I think will is vaporware, but I don't think is in there is Shadowlands. Remember that he was also going to create a supplement on the Plane of Shadow.
Mhm.
Here he was. Never happened. Well, I don't think that that one is in the notes that Paul uncovered, but I do believe there is some Stoic stuff in there.
Yep. Oh,
We'll see
Cool.
what
wow.
happens.
Yep. Mhm. That's so cool. Yep.
So I guess that's my tangent there.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've done enough map tangents for tonight, so to speak. So, yep.
Okay. Gary, I agree. I like Stallman Klum as well. I know that they did some stuff with him in the Slavers second edition, the Slavers book, which
Mhm.
was kind of cool, making him the leader of the Earth Dragon cult. But uh, if let's just suppose that Anna's group did kill the real Marquesa, if that actually did happen, the
Mhm.
next module that I will have in that series will feature a different slave lord. We'll see.
What about yeah? Yeah. Once they killed her couple of copies or simulacrums or whatever she's hiding somewhere. Yeah. Hmm.
I think to answer Goon, Shadowlands, yeah, that WG's WG7 spot was supposed to go towards Shadowlands, but then ended up being Castle Greyhawk.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But it's not the same material, I would
Yep.
hope.
Babix has a good point here that hopefully we can cooperate and make sure that we can kind of make things match, and that's one of the things I definitely want to do. Is like once when I played in your adventure, so next year my next edition of the map will actually have that little island that we were that adventure
Moreau
actually
Point,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
that's
that will
awesome.
be on the map next year. So
I
I'll
gotta
try
tell you,
it.
when you have a location on Anna's maps, you know you've made it.
Yeah.
No, but it's like I want my maps to as much as possible take in all cool fan content as well, so to speak. So
Mhm.
so that's why I put Mike's. He
Ooh.
basically everything in all except Olakand is Mike's creation, and it fits the perfectly in there. So that's the thing, and a lot of people ask me, how do I get something on your map, and they start pestering me, and
Hmm.
my answer has always been that don't pester me. I will be the final gatekeeper,
Huh.
but I will put things that are generally seen as useful and popular in the Greyhawk community that will
Right.
go into my map. So if you want things, have to things on my map, spread it around the Greyhawk community. If it's liked, talked about, and used and praised, then that's the best way of getting things on my map
Right.
is to share it. So and actually I have way more content from Mike and others than my own content. I'm much harder at putting my stuff on the map than I am putting a lot of other fan content on the map.
Uh,
Yeah. So
Thanks for joining us, Taco Turtle. I think you're the same one that I've been following on Twitter, right?
oh cool. Yep.
Awesome.
Welcome. Yep.
And yes, Linda, it's an if. You never know.
Mhm.
If.
Yeah, never can't tell.
Yep. Mhm.
Mum's the word until the next module has been released.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Mhm.
break. I don't want to spoil the surprise.
Yep. Mhm.
But that's again, I really do like creating those series because I feel like stuff like the Slavers, where you had a series of the GD or the Giants series that ended with Queen of the Demon Web Pits. Those are some of the classic modules that we remember in Greyhawk for a reason, because they created that continuity,
Hmm.
that continuing storyline.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I kind of like to reflect myself.
Yeah, and I guess also when you create a series of adventures, you can use the research in more than one occasion, which means
Yeah,
that
that's
it's
definitely
much
true.
more efficient. You can research like the Slavers and the Pomarsh area, and then you can kind of make a whole series of adventures. That way, you make much more better use of your research time.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, now we have about 5 minutes left.
I mean,
So
yeah,
let's go through chat, and then if we have something that we
well,
each want to plug for the
mm,
upcoming stuff
okay.
here.
Um, plug.
Yeah.
Well, I've already
Hmm.
kind of talked about most of the stuff I'm doing. Uh, I'll give you a sneak peek on the map I designed here. It's
Oh,
Oh.
nice.
probably backwards. I don't know.
No, it's
No,
not backwards. It's
no, it's
actually
not
correct.
backwards.
So, yep.
So there you go.
Hmm.
Waiesta Lake. It's all like hand drawn on hex
Oh,
paper.
it's beautiful.
I'll
Hmm.
let you drool over it on my blog, Greyhawkery, next time.
Hmm.
Hmm. I guess what I'll plug is my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Castle Entertainment. That is where you're going to get the newest releases of all my material, whether it be adventure cards, mini modules, new spells, new magic items, new monsters, and actually the modules themselves that you've been looking at. You'll all get them before anyone else has a chance to. They're almost all directly Greyhawk related. Um, that I want to promo that, and I also want to promo one last time my Lost Dog charity that we're going to be doing here this on the April 5th through 7th. More information coming on Facebook on the Castle Entertainment Facebook page. If you'd like to be a part of that, I would love to have you. Even if it's just buying a copy of the module to donate to Red Rover, that'd be great.
Awesome. Yep. And I guess I can just plug my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Anna B. Meyer. And it's basically what you get is that you get firsthand. First, you get to tell me what to do in the future, and then if you subscribe, and you also get like early access to things. You get it things like from a month to several months before anyone else gets them, and you also, if you subscribe to the highest of tiers, you also get all the source material and the know-how and stuff like that. You will get the Lindor files I'm working with right now, so you can work in parallel or create your own versions of it. And there will also be map streams that will be on a weekly basis for my top tier patrons, that we go through the technical stuff and so on a weekly basis, and Q&As and stuff. So yeah, so that's the major plug. And then I have a couple of secret projects that I'm working on this. I have the open ones, the 576 map, and the Hepmona Land map, and Lindor Isles. But I have a couple of secret projects like that will come out, that I will
Yeah.
announce to my patrons hopefully within a month or two. So I
Cool.
have a
Awesome.
couple of secret cool things that hopefully I had like the handout maps was one of the secrets last year, and they're going to be handout maps 2 this year for my patrons. And but there will be some other cool kind of stuff that was very requested in the past. Not only the 576 map, but there will be some other cool stuff coming too. So yep.
To answer Taco Turtle's
Yeah.
question, I agree with you. I feel like A0, I wasn't very enthused by it. I would not be surprised if it was put together kind of hastily, just to support the
Reprint.
re-release.
Ah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I'd still gotta give them a little bit of credit for trying to put out something new at the time.
no,
That
yeah.
was like, oh wow, they're actually trying to put out something new rather than just rehashing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Would I have changed anything with it? Yeah, a lot. I think it's,
You're
I,
more familiar with the subject matter than me, perhaps.
We
yeah, I
all
think that
have stuff
maybe
like that. Yeah.
I would have for me the whole focus would have been trying to put it chronologically before all the rest of the slave lord stuff, and kind of as a build up to it. But
Oh,
I kind of feel like they squandered that opportunity a little bit.
I can't remember who wrote that.
I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, not important right now. Maybe we'll revisit it one of these days.
Yeah. thanks for your interest in the mini module, Bavix. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome. We have
Yeah.
lots, as usual, we have lots of awesome people in chat asking really great questions and coming with comments and making sure that we stay true to our stuff here and correct us in all the things that goes wrong. And like you say, I have
And
to issue a new map edition basically every year just to correct all the
skip.
stuff that I screwed up previous years and haven't done it from all the typos to whatever. So that's the part. So okay. So
Skip Williams, huh?
okay. Skip did that one.
One person who gave us the Dragon Annual map. Right?
Is that Skip Williams?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can blame him
Are
for
you
that
trying
one.
to get me in trouble, Mike?
Mhm. Okay, we have to see. Yep, yep. That's something
Hey,
that we have
thanks.
to dig in and talk about one other episode here and in the rest of the planet because we had some talk on the Flanders Geographical Society too that we have things about the rest of the planet too. And we've had some babbles before, but that will be
Wow.
a recurring topic, I guess. Every season we have to have an episode talking about the rest of the
The
planet.
ever
So,
controversial dragon map.
yeah, exactly, and stuff like
Thanks
that.
for
So,
supporting the Greyhawk channel there, Taco Turtle.
oh yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
that map is the bane of my existence.
Yeah, we'll see. There's some issues, and there's from map technical stuff with it, that projections and stuff to simply should the game setting look like that, and some other, yeah. There's a whole range of interesting issues with that map that is kind of super interesting in its way. So we should definitely, we need to come back and have a whole episode and talk about that map and
Eric and Zindia, how
Yeah,
exciting!
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I have. Yeah, I've aired those kind of my kind of ooh when I
This is
yeah
this is a subject I'm extremely passionate about.
yeah
I'm gonna
yeah
put a
yeah.
cork
We
in
have
it.
to have you on again, and we have to have like a big panel discussion about the rest of the planet one day.
We will,
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure.
Yeah, but
We should
yeah.
go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carlos, for being on
Yeah,
for this
thanks,
show. That was a
Carlos.
wonderful conversation we've had.
That time just
Thanks
flew
for
right
having
by.
me, guys. I really appreciate it, and thanks for everything you guys do for supporting the Greyhawk setting.
Yep.
You guys are some of the stalwarts and helping keep the lights on, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure I speak for the whole community when I say that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you again to everyone in chat that came in and spent a couple hours with us and
Come again next week.
Yep.
We'll answer all your questions.
Yes,
Or
but we'll try at least.
try.
Is
Okay.
Cobb Darg a dragon?
Yep. Or and the Earth Dragon and God, and we have all sorts of stuff that we need to discuss. Okay, thank you and good night everyone.
Good night.